Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhavati Naishvaki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 25, how all the residents of Varanasi became Vaishnavas. Text 171. सबे कहे लोक तारी ते तोमार अवतार पूर्व दक्षिण पश्चिम करीला निस्तार. All the Lord's devotees then said, you have incarnated to deliver fallen souls. You have delivered them in the east and in the south, and now you are delivering them in the west. So Mahaprabhu was saying that I was going to leave this place because there were no buyers, but we find the buyers. So his product is Krishna Prem. And then everybody is saying, but you have incarnated to deliver. So you have delivered them in the east and in the south, and now you're delivering them in the west. Ek Varanasi chela toma teve mukha, taha nistarya kaila amasabara sukha. Only Varanasi was left because the people there were against your missionary activities. Now you have delivered them, and you're all very happy. वाराणसी ग्रामे यदि कोलाहल हरि शुनि ग्रामी देशी लोक आसिते लगी. After the news of these events were broadcast, everyone from the surrounding neighborhoods began to pour in to see Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Laksha koti loka aise nahi kagana sankirna sthane prabhu darshan. Hundreds of thousands of people came to see Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There was no counting the number because the Lord's residence was very small, not everyone could see. Prabhu jabe snanayana Vishveshwara darshane Dui dikke lok kare Prabhu vilokan. When Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to take his bath in Ganga and to see the temple of Vishveshwar or Kashi Vishwanath, people would line up on both sides to see the Lord. Bahutuli Prabhu kahe bal Krishna hari dandavat kare loke hari dhanikari. When Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed by the people, he would raise his arms and say, please chant Krishna, please chant Hari. All the people received him by chanting Hare Krishna, and they offered the respect to him by this chanting. Ei mata din pancha loka nistari, har din chalila prabhu vignahaya. In this way, for 5 days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the people of Varanasi. Finally, on the next day, he became very eager to leave. Ratre uthi prabhu yadi kari laga mana, pache lag laila tabe bhakta panchajan. After rising very early on the 6th day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to leave, and 5 devotees began to follow him. Tapan Mishra Raghunath Maharashtriya Brahmana Chandrasekhar Kirtaniya Parmanand Panchajan. These 5 devotees were Tapan Mishra, Raghunath, the Maharashtrian Brahman, Chandrasekhar, and Parmanand Kirtaniya. Sabe chahe Prabhu sange Neela chal jaite, sabare bidaye dila Prabhu yatna sahite. These 5 wanted to accompany Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Jagannath Puri, but the Lord attentively bade them farewell. Yara ichha pache aisa amara dekhite, eve ami eka jani jari khanda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you want to see me, you may come later, but for the time being, I shall go alone through the Jharikhanda forest. Sanatane kahile tohi yaha vrindavan, tomar dui bhai tatha kariyache gaman. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Sanatana Goswami to proceed towards the and he informed him that his two brothers had already gone. Kantha karangiya mor kangal bhakt gana vrindavane aile tamir kari palana. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami, all my devotees who go to Vrindavan are generally very poor. They each have nothing with them but a torn quilt and a small water. Therefore, Sanatana, you should give them shelter and maintain. See, very important instruction. And Prabhupada, let's see what Prabhupada says. Following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have constructed temples in both Vrindavan and Maya, just to give shelter to the foreign devotees coming from Europe and America. Since the Hare Krishna movement started, many Europeans and Americans have been visiting Vrindavan, but they have not been properly received by any ashram or temple there. It's the purpose of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give them shelter and train them in devotion service. There are also many tourists eager to come to India to understand India's spiritual life. The devotees in our temples, both in Vrindavan and in Navadvip, should make arrangements to accommodate them as far as possible. See, Prabhupada's mode clearly is not to make money, is not to commercialize the temples. Because Prabhupada knew, and he showed by his act, if we are serving Krishna, Krishna is, and thousands of Lakshmis are serving. Lakshmi is Sahasrashapta Sambram, Sevyam. So what's so difficult for Krishna to arrange one, to send one, if we are serving him properly? Is it so difficult for Krishna to arrange for money for his services? No. Only thing is, if we are serving him properly, without any ulterior motives, and without any distractions from what Prabhupada has given us. Ete bali chalila Prabhu sabha alingi sabhai padila tatha uchita haya. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them all and began to proceed on his way. And they all fainted and fell down. Katakshane uthi sabhe dukhe ghare aila Sanatan Gosai Vrindavanere Chalila. After some time, all the devotees got up and returned to their homes, very much grief-stricken. Sanatan Goswami proceeded towards Vrindavan alone. Etha Rupa Gosai Jave Mathura Aila Dhruva Ghate Tare Subudhi Rai Milila. When Rupa Goswami reached Mathura, he met Subudhi Rai on the banks of the Yamuna at a place called Dhruv Ghat. So this is in Mathura. Dhruv Ghat is close to Vishram Ghat, which is the Vishram Ghat is the most popular place, and not too far from there, it's Dhruv Ghat. Purve yabe Subudhi Rai Chila Gode Adhikari Hussain Khan Sayyad Kare Tahar Chakari. Formerly, Subudhi Rai had been a big landholder in Gaudadesh, Bengal. Sayyad Hussain Khan was then a servant of Subudhi Rai. So, same Hussain Khan, Nawab Hussain Khan, who was now the king, and Rupa and Sanatan Goswami were ministers under him. Same Hussain Khan was then a servant of Subudhi Rai. Digi Khodaite Tare, Munsif Kaila, Chidra Paya Rai Tare, Chabuka Marila. Subudhi Rai put Hussain Khan in charge of digging a big lake, but once, finding fault with him, he struck him with a whip. Now, this also very instructive pastime for us. Let's read. Pache jabe Hussain Khan, Gode Raja Hail, Subudhi Rai Rehti Bahubal Hail. Later, Hussain Khan, somehow or other, was appointed Nawab by the central Muslim government. As a matter of obligation, increased the opulences of Subudhi Rai. तार स्त्री तार अंगे देखे मारनेर चिन्ह सुबुद्धि राय मारिते कहे राजस्थान. Later, when the wife of Nawab Sayyad Hussain Khan saw the whip marks on his body, she requested him to kill Subuddhi Rai. See the mentality. Because she saw the whip marks on the body of her husband. And she asked, "How did you get this?" And he said, "Well, this is how Subuddhi Rai hit me once with a chabuk when I made a mistake." राजा कहे आमार पोष्टा राय है पिता ताहारे मारिमु आमी बालना है कथा. Hussain Khan replied, "Subudhi Rai has maintained me very carefully. He was just like a father to me." He said, "Now you are asking me to kill him? This is not a very good proposal." स्त्री कहे जाति लहा यदि प्राणे न मारी राजा कहे जाति नीले हूं ना ही जी में. As a last alternative, the wife suggested that the Nawab take away Subudhi Rai's caste and turn him into a Muslim. But Hussain Khan replied that if he did this, Subudhi Rai would not live. स्त्री मारीते चाहे राजा संकटे पड़ी ना करो यार पानी तार मुखे दे आई ना. This became a perplexing problem for him because his wife kept requesting him to kill Subudhi Rai. Obviously, she wasn't just requesting, she must be really torturing him or pestering him. Finally, the Nawab sprinkled a little water on Subudhi Rai's head from a pitcher that had been used by a Muslim. So now, see Prabhupada's purport. 500 years ago in India, the Hindus were so rigid and strict that if a Muslim would sprinkle a little water from his pitcher upon a Hindu, the Hindu would be immediately ostracized. Hindu would be immediately ostracized, means kicked out of the society. And that is how actually many Hindus became Muslims. So they're kicked out of the society, so they had no other option but to become a Muslim. Or these Muslim kings, they levied extra taxes on Hindus. So the poor Hindus, they could not pay, so they became Muslims just to avoid those taxes. And when they become Muslims, now 3, 4, 5 generations, 500 years ago, so many generations, now they are just so fanatic Muslims. Was it a fault of Hindu society to be so strict and rigid? If a Muslim just sprinkles some water from his pot and you ostracize that Hindu, well, whatever was the case, but we are paying the price now. Recently, in 1947, during the partition days, there was a big riot between Hindus and Muslims, especially in Bengal. The Hindus were forcibly made to eat cow's flesh, and consequently they began crying, thinking that they had become Muslims. Actually, the Muslims in India did not come from the country of the Muslims, but Hindus instituted the custom that somehow or other, if one contacted a Muslim, he became a Muslim. He became a Muslim. Rup Goswami and Sanatan Goswami were born in a high Brahmin family, but because they accepted employment under a Muslim government, they were considered Muslims. And the reason they accepted this employment, they were from a Brahmin family. They didn't need to do any work under any Muslim king. Because Nawab Hussain Shah, he heard of the scholarship of Rup and Sanatan Goswami and their brother Anupam Goswami. So he requested them, "Will you please join my ministership?" They refused. Then Nawab said, "If you don't, then I'll make sure every day I'll kill many Brahmins. If you join my government, I'll spare them." So because of that, Rup and Sanatan Goswami and Anupam Goswami, they joined the administration. They worked under Nawab Hussain Shah to save the Brahmins. Because most Muslims, as we must have read, heard, They're just they're just barbarians. That's all. And here, in this case, although Subudhi Rai, he he took care of Hussain Shah when he was a little boy. And Hussain says to his wife that he was like my father. But the wife kept on pestering him, okay, you convert him into a Muslim if you're not going to kill him. Subudhi Rai was sprinkled with water from the pitcher of a Muslim, and consequently he was condemned to have become a Muslim. Later, Aurangzeb, the Muslim emperor, introduced a tax especially meant for Hindus. Being oppressed in the Hindu community, many low-caste Hindus preferred to become Muslims. In this way, the Muslim population increased. Later, the British government made it a policy to divide the Hindus and Muslims, and thus they maintained ill feelings between them. The result was that India was divided into Pakistan and Hindustan. From early histories, it appears that the entire earth was under one culture, Vedic culture, but gradually, due to religious and cultural divisions, the rule fragmented into many divisions. Now the earth is divided into many countries, religions, and political parties. Despite these political and religious divisions, we advocate that everyone should unite and again under one culture, Krishna consciousness. Now that's the movement is gone. But yes, it had only one culture. Vedic Sanatan Dharma was all over until Maharaj Parikshit. But later it just became fragmented. This is the effect of Kali Yuga. So many countries, so many religions have come up, political parties, and the result has been there always war going on all over the world between two countries or within the countries. The wars are always. And actually, Prabhupada is not wrong when he says there should be only one culture, Krishna consciousness. So that is how the movement is progressing. But now within Krishna consciousness movement, we have to be careful, and and we have to strictly follow Prabhupada's instructions, because otherwise, even within the society, I don't know how much you know, there have been many divisions, many sections now, and everybody claims my practice is the perfect practice. So how are we going to spread it all over the world if this is the case? I don't know. People should accept one God, Krishna, one scripture, Bhagavad Gita, and one activity, devotional service to the Lord. Thus people may live happily upon this earth and combine to produce sufficient food. In such a society, there would be no question of scarcity, famine, or cultural or religious degradation. That's an ideal society. So-called caste systems and national divisions are artificial. According to our Vaishnava philosophy, these are all external bodily designations. The Krishna consciousness movement is not based upon bodily designations. It is a transcendental movement on the platform of spiritual understanding. If the people of the world understood that the basic principle of life is spiritual identification, they would understand that the business of the spirit soul is to serve the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. As Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mame Vansho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. So every living entity, it's not like only Hindus or Brahmins. No, every, they're my parts. I'm the father of everybody. And we've been fighting. My father is better than your father. All living entities in different life forms are sons of Krishna. Therefore, they are all meant to serve Krishna, the original Supreme Father. If this philosophy is accepted, the failure of the United Nations to unite all nations will be sufficiently compensated all over the world by a great Krishna consciousness movement. Recently, we had talks with Christian leaders in Australia, including the Catholic Bishop of Melbourne, and everyone there was pleased with the philosophy of oneness in religious consciousness. Yes, that is the philosophy, but are we practicing it properly? That's what remains to be seen. तबे सुबुद्धि राय से छद्म पाया वाराणसी आइला सब विषय छाड़िया. Taking the Nawab's sprinkling water upon him as an opportunity, Subudhi Rai left his family and business affairs and went to Varanasi. It appears that Subudhi Rai was a big landholder and responsible, respectable gentleman. He could not, however, avoid the social misconception that one becomes a Muslim when water is sprinkled on one's face or head from a Muslim's pitcher. Actually, he was planning to give up his material life and leave his family. Hindu culture recommends 4 divisions: Brahmacharya, Grihast, Vanprast, and Sannyas. Subudhi Rai was thinking of taking sannyas, and by the grace of Krishna, he received this opportunity. He therefore left his family and went to Varanasi. The system of Varnashram Dharma is very scientific. If one is directed by the Varnashram institution, he will naturally think of retiring from family life at the end of life, towards the end of his life. Therefore, sannyas is compulsory at the age of 50, or vanprastha at the age of 50, and then sannyas. Also, it shows one more thing. If we analyze it, if this was so easy that a Muslim just sprinkles some water from his pitcher on any Hindu and he becomes a Muslim, then they could have done it all over. What is the big deal in sprinkling water? It's not like they were so kind that they didn't want to convert everybody into Muslims. That was not the case. The thing was, their rule was not all over, as they show in history books, but history books are not, they are manipulated. So the rule was not all over, and even in their own kingdom, they were afraid of doing this practice to everybody. They were very afraid. So that's why they couldn't just convert each and everybody. But at the same time, they were very cruel people. So just imagine how our ancestors lived at that time. And that was a time when the temples were broken, especially Vrindavan and Ayodhya and many other temples. So how our ancestors lived, how they remained Hindus, Sanatanis, they did not convert. And that is why it's so, I mean, disheartening first to see these election results, and then second, people not taking up the Sanatan Dharma seriously. That's very disheartening, actually. Anyway, so we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Prabhuji, the people say Dhol Gawar Shudra Pashu Sakala Tadana Ki Adhikari. So this two liners ना इसको हॉटस्पॉट बना लिया है कि बट है इसका मीनिंग वही है कि बीटिंग अप. So it's not about the other way around to teach someone. तो वो क्या ही कर सकते हैं if you close your ears कि बंद कर लेना है, सुनना ही नहीं है, and that you hear the other side of the story, तो कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते. कलयुग का प्रभाव है, I think.
नहीं कर तो बहुत कुछ सकते हैं. I mean, okay, you want to read that shloka of Ramcharitmanas? There are so many thousands of other shlokas of Ramcharitmanas. Why don't you listen to them? And the Bhagavad Gita is there anyway. Listen to that. It's just an excuse. It's just that's all.
तो
Ignorance is so much. They just want to find an excuse. All we have to do is preach, preach, preach more. And if we cannot preach, at least distribute prashadam, feed them prashadam. That will make them conducive to listen further later on.
exactly.
Very important. And as Mahaprabhu is doing Sankirtan Yagya, just chant Hare Krishna. Even if you don't want to say it, don't want to talk to anybody, let them hear Hare Krishna. But yes, it is tough. It is tough. And all I can visualize how tough it was at that time. What they went through, our ancestors. It's amazing. Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Thank